Hey everyone, a little bit of something different today. Usually I'm not the type to jump onto straightforward review videos, but I had to make a brief exception for today's topic. In the past weekend, I played and completed the newest Spider-Man game, released on PS4 by Insomniac. Everyone and their grandmother is playing this and speaking their mind, so this video probably isn't anything particularly new, but I figured I might as well give this a crack. Spider-Man on PS4 is a testament to everything superhero games should aspire to be, or at least for the most part it is. This game takes the web-swinging, villain-beating action of Spidey's signature adventures and transfers them flawlessly to a playable medium, along with plenty of gripping story beats to accompany. In this game you play as, well, Spider-Man, obviously, but doesn't just stop there in terms of your character roster. The game will also see you play as Peter Parker in his regular life for some harmless enough circuitry science puzzles, as well as just walking around chatting with people. You'll also sometimes play as Mary Jane Watson or Miles Morales for some stealth sections, which, while not entirely terrible, were definitely my least favorite part of the game. They often felt like they dragged on for a while and didn't coordinate where to go very well at times. I don't want them to be cut entirely, but I would definitely like to see them improve drastically if they were to be implemented in a potential sequel. As for the Spider-Man gameplay itself, that's the bulk of this game, and whew, boy, where to begin. First of all, the web-swinging and traversal mechanics in this game are phenomenal. I know you've heard every person under the sun with a PS4 and a mouth say that this game makes you feel like Spider-Man, so I won't bother restating the obvious, but they truly do say it for a reason. His movement is fluid, tight, physically sound, while also incredibly flexible. There's a bit of a learning curve at the very beginning. I did find myself bumping around into walls and objects here and there, but once you've got a grip on things, travel is an absolute breeze, and you'll rarely find yourself using fast travel when considering just how fun it is to swing around New York City. Combat is another central part of Spider-Man's gameplay, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. Let me clarify first by saying the combat itself feels very good and satisfying, and if you're good at it, you can pull off some pretty kick-ass stuff here. Spidey does feel a bit weak in some of these encounters. Sure, he goes down in several hearty hits if you're not paying attention, but this in part is where the combat shines. The fact that Spider-Man isn't impenetrable and that obviously he's screwed if he gets shot a bunch of times incentivizes quick thinking and constantly being on the move. His acrobatics accommodate swinging around combat encounters without being so easy that it feels like he can cheat death, and improvisation from moment to moment is key to putting up a good fight. This game doesn't allow you to simply charge in mashing buttons endlessly to get by, nor does it heal you up if you decide to retreat momentarily to catch your breath. The only way to heal yourself during battle is to build up your focus gauge, which can also be used to perform one-hit cinematic throwdown moves. The focus gauge is an interesting mechanic in that it builds primarily from performing well in battle. It encourages throwing yourself in and getting better at fighting, to then be able to risk death in exchange for more sweet heals or sucker punches. It's pretty satisfying to master. Where the combat tends to fall apart at times is that as the game carries on, the difficulty in these encounters naturally spikes. However, Spider-Man falls into a common pitfall of these difficulty spikes, which is to say, a lot of the encounters don't necessarily feel more challenging from an enemy tactic standpoint, but rather from a throwaway more guys on screen standpoint. There were several missions where I died repeatedly simply because one guy would shoot me after I'd take so much damage trying to take down all the other innumerable guys on screen around him. I did eventually get all of them down, but occasionally this made fighting feel like a chore. Boss battles were a tad on the disappointing side too. The battles toward the end of the game were exceedingly clever at times and very satisfying to get down, but there were just as many bosses that felt like a simple matter of dodging around until the weak point was exposed, going in to mash the combo button, rinse repeat until the boss decided to stop fighting. Fortunately, a lot of the weaker moments of the actual gameplay was greatly supplemented by what feels to me like the best non-comic Spider-Man story probably ever. The characterization and acting here is top-notch, helped in no small part by the excellent visuals both in mocap and just in general, and the actual plot is very engaging and well-paced. I'm not exactly a huge fan of superheroes, I'll be the first to admit that, but this game absolutely nailed all of the aspects I find to be interesting about those types of stories. This game's ending actually made me cry, so if that's any indication, I suppose that should speak for itself. I won't spoil any of the story details here, but it's definitely worth experiencing, even if you don't fancy yourself that big of a fan of Spider-Man. Oh, also, this starts 8 years into Peter Parker's crime-fighting career, so breathe easy knowing you don't have to see Uncle Ben die for the 14 zillionth time. Outside the main story missions, there's plenty of collectibles and side missions to go on, both during and after the game, like wave-based advanced fortress storms, backpack retrievals, upgrades and skill points to obtain, suit and gadget upgrades, bomb missions, pigeon missions, lab missions, the list goes on and on. The city even has endlessly spawning random crime, which you never actually have to do if you don't want to, but it does make the immersion of the Spider-Man role all the stronger when you can be heading from point A to point B and decide to randomly stop to put a cap on a B&E by beating the tar out of some unsuspecting burglars. Spider-Man for PS4 is truly a great game, and if you have the opportunity, I'd highly suggest picking it up. With that being said, that's all I have to say for today's review. I'll be working on a bigger video than this, obviously, in the meantime, and I hope to have that out sometime soon. And that's pretty much it. I hope you all enjoyed the video, blah 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 blah. Bye.